Okay. Is it coming through? To what? See the bar going up now? Yep. All right.
Does this work?
Yeah, it should work.
Cool. All right. Oh, you want to do it?
There you go. What? Yes, Elijah is teaching.
All righty.
Daddy, am I on the right thing?
Yeah, you're really close,
All right.
actually.
Well, let's pray. Heavenly Father, holy is your name. None of my words, only yours. No more, no less. Father, your will be done. Help us to ingrain these verses about your promises in our minds and our actions. Amen.
Get it.
Okay. Do I need to wait on you?
You're good.
All righty. So we've been going through what has been termed the Hall of Faith. So men of old bore witness to their enduring faith, and women. We've talked about Sarah as well. As we've gone through these faithful individuals, we're seeing a pattern of seeking the kingdom of Yahweh and his righteousness. As a result of that, they obeyed exactly the instructions that were given to them. They did something. So when I did mine, not that long ago, we went through Noah, and we noticed a little bit of a pattern with all of them, but with Noah, it was like each comma gave us an example. So by faith, Noah, having been warned about things not yet seen. So we've got faith. Out of reverence, which I found some translations said holy fear, he constructed. So that's an action. An ark for the deliverance of his family, by which he pronounced sentence on the world, which is a rebuke to proclaim the coming judgment or a call to repentance. Doing all Yahweh asked of him exactly as he was asked. And because of all that, he became an heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. So this granted Noah to become an heir of this righteousness by faith. What all does heir imply? That means he's getting something. But if I said you're an heir, if I don't tell you what of, it's just words, right? You need to know what is coming. Okay. So Nate's been going through Abraham, and we noticed that seeking first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. So Abraham sought the kingdom of Yahweh and his righteousness, did exactly what Yahweh asked of him, and looked forward to a city built by Yahweh. Lost my clicker, boy. All right. So before we get too much further, I'm going to go ahead and read, or we'll have somebody go ahead and read our context for this week. Someone wants to read this. I've got plenty of reading for later.
Therefore, do not throw away your confidence, which has great reward. For you have need of endurance, in order that after you have done the will of God, you may receive what was promised. For yet a very, very little while, and the one who is coming will come and will not delay. And my righteous one will live by faith. And if he shrinks back, my soul is not well pleased with him. But we are not among those who shrink back. to destruction, but among those who have the faith to the preservation of our souls. Now, faith is the foundation of things hoped for, the reproof of things not seen. For by this the people of old were reproved or bore witness. By faith we understand history was framed by the word, the sayings, the scripture of Yahweh, in order that what is seen did not happen from what is visible. By faith, Abel offered to Yah a greater sacrifice than Cain, by which he was approved that he was righteous, because Yah approved him. For his gifts, and through it, faith, he still speaks, although he is dead. By faith, Enoch was moved, so that he did not experience death, and he was not found because Yah moved him. For before his removal, he had been approved, or bore witness, as having been pleasing to God. Now without faith, it is impossible to please him. For the one who approaches Yah must believe that he exists and is a rewarder of those who seek him. By faith, Noah, having been warned about things not yet seen, out of reverence constructed an ark for the deliverance of his family, by which he pronounced sentence on the world and became heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed to go out to a place that he was going to receive for an inheritance, and he went out, not knowing where he was going. By faith, he lived in the land of promise as a stranger, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the fellow heirs of the same promise. For he was expecting the city that has foundations, whose architect and builder is Yah. By faith also with Sarah, he received the ability to procreate, even past the normal age, because he regarded the one who had promised to be faithful. And therefore these were fathered from one man, and he being as good as dead, as the stars of heaven in number, and like the innumerable sand by the sand of the seashore. I think I missed something.
No, you just read that part jumbled, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Sorry.
You're good.
These are all died in faith without receiving the promises, but seeing them from a distance and welcoming them, admitting that they were strangers and temporary residents on the earth. For those who say such things make clear they are seeking a homeland. And if they remember that land from which they went out, they would have opportunity to return. But now they aspire to a better land, that is, a heavenly one. Therefore Yah is not ashamed of them to be called their God, for he has prepared for them a city.
Thank you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now that we've got some immediate context, let's dive in. So these all died in faith. That's what we've been going through for many weeks now, as we started Hebrews 11. Without receiving the promises. So whatever these promises were, they did not receive in life. So what promises? And it says all, meaning the promises are shared promises amongst at the least all of these men and women that have died keeping the faith. But seeing them from a distance and welcoming them and admitting that they were strangers and temporary residents on the earth. And now we get a qualifier of the promises. Strangers and temporary residents on the earth. So somehow these promises are tied to the earth itself. Note it says on the earth here. We'll get there later. For those who say such things make clear that they are seeking a homeland. Now the author of Hebrews lumps those who say, implying the readers of this in the faith. So these promises are tied to all the mentioned men and women that died in the faith, and that somehow tied to the earth include us, if we keep the same faith. And the behaviors thereof, obviously. Also, another notice, note the word homeland here at the end. We'll discuss that rabbit trail later. But before we keep going, there is some other context I want to put in the middle before we finish the rest of those verses. that make the rest of the verses very clear. Because what I like to do before I actually dig into any external anything, I try to read context, obviously, but then I read these over and mull these over as much as I can. I read the section that I plan on hitting and let the Father kind of bring something to mind throughout the week or whatever, however that ends up playing out. But that said, there was a verse right after this. Oh, wow. It's already in my notes. I was about to rabbit trail. It's already right here. So I'll just read this. It'll make more sense. The next two verses took me, myself, and I a full round table discussion and periodic pacing of the kitchen with my wife while I rambled to wrap my head around things. And I think it's another case of the translators not quite grasping what it was saying prior to the English, so they just had to go literal and then moved on. But we'll get there. Okay. One more time. Nope, just kidding. I've got notes on the blank slides, apparently. So these next verses, we've read relatively recently. Yet with all we've studied in the last several chapters of Hebrews and with a new perspective on these earth-tied promises, they're worth another read with a little bit of a different perspective now. Notice how much I've highlighted that revolve around the promises we just were referring to. Did he take the clicker and run away? Maybe he did.
Hey, is it right?
It's fine. I got buttons up here. All right. So I'm going to read Jeremiah 37 and 38 again. But now we've got a little bit of a different perspective because we're looking forward to the gathering of Zion home. These promises. I've tried to highlight as much as I could that related to the promises without highlighting entire slides. Yes, there are still entire slides highlighted. Couldn't help it. Jeremiah. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh to say, this is what Yahweh, the God of Israel, said, saying, write all the words that I have spoken to you upon a document. For look, the days are coming, says Yahweh, and I will return the exile of my people, Israel and Judah, said Yahweh, and I will return them to the land that I have given to their fathers, and they will rule over it. And these are the words that Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and Judah. This is what Yahweh said. You will hear a sound of fear. There is fear. I have a note here before I moved on. Land that I have given to your fathers sounds like the promises to those in our Hebrews verse. Go ahead. This one is LEB, or no, this is LS. So this is like a Septuagint. Yeah. So.
I'm used to Septuagint being the LXS, and I was like,
Yeah, LXX is like 70.
and I was like, oh, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna keep listening.
this is just the version of the Septuagint I'm using. Yeah, it's the same one Nate uses. I just put
It's the
LES2.
same version.
I could put LXX, I guess. Yeah. And there
Be
is,
more specific.
yeah, good. And there is no peace. Ask and see if a male has given birth, and concerning the fear with which they hold their loins in deliverance. For I have seen all humankind, and his hands were upon his loins. They turned their faces, they became jaundiced. For that day is great, and there is none such as this. And it is not oppressive time for Jacob, and he will be delivered from this. On that day, said Yahweh, I will crush the yoke from their neck, and I will break their bonds, and they will not labor for foreigners. And they will labor for Yahweh their God, and I will raise up David their king. Oh, go back one. I was going to skip that. But see, so this section here in the blue, great and terrible day of the Lord. There's a lot to these promises. It's not one simple boom. There's a lot of pieces at once.
Recognize the fact that it says it as it is an oppressive time for Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say it's an oppressive time for anybody else.
Yeah.
So this tribulation thing
Yeah.
is all because of what Jacob went
Mhm.
through. It's like a playing out of what he had
Yeah.
pain in his side, and now it's going to be for Jacob.
Yeah, and it seems to be a testing. Yeah, it seems to be a testing as well because it says oppressive time, and then it says he'll be delivered. Yeah, so it's clearly a testing, but not for the foreigners that he's breaking the necks for. Go ahead. But catch this as well. After the day of the Lord, millennial reign of Yeshua. As it raised up that line of David. Go ahead. For them. This is what Yahweh said. I raised up a fracture. Your wound was painful. There is none to judge your case, and you were cured for pain. There is no help for you. All your friends have forgotten you. They shall not inquire about you, because I have made fun of you with a wound of an enemy, with a severe discipline. Your sins multiplied over all your injustices. Therefore, all who eat you will be eaten, and all your enemies will eat all their flesh. Your sins have been multiplied over the multitude of your injustices. They have done these things to you, and those who tore you apart will become. So I wrote here, their sins was, remember, way back, this was a fault. He had fault with them, the people. It's their sins that have caused all this. These are the curses from disobedience to Yahweh's laws, commands, and decrees. Go ahead. Will become to pieces, and I will give as plunder all who plunder you, because I will bring up your healing. I will cure you from your painful wound, declares Yahweh. For you were called scattered. She is your prey, for he is not seeking her. This is what Yahweh said. Look, I myself am returning the exile of Jacob, and I will have mercy upon his exile. And the city will be built upon her height. Hit it. I know I fixed some highlightings here. Here we go. And the city will be built upon her height, and the people will be established according to its judgment. And singers will go out from them, and the sound of jesting, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few, and their sons will enter, as in the former times. And their testimonies will be lifted up before my face, and I will visit those who afflict them. And his mighty ones will be over him, and his rulers will come out from him. And I will gather them, and they will return to me. For who is this who gave his heart to return to me? Says Yahweh. Because the angry wrath of Yahweh has gone out, returning wrath has gone out. It will come against the ungodly. The wrath of the anger of Yahweh shall not turn back until he has accomplished, and until he has brought about the undertaking of his heart. So I had a note here, return to me sounds like repentance. Without repentance, the turning back to the Father and his ways, there is no salvation. In the last days you will know. Hit it again. At that time, Yahweh said, I will become a God for the race of Israel, and they will become a people for me. This is what Yahweh said. I found him warm in the desert with those who had been destroyed by the sword. Go and do not destroy Israel. Yahweh appeared to him from afar. I have loved you with an eternal love. Therefore I have drawn you in compassion. For I will build you, and you will be built. That's city language. O virgin Israel. You will seize your tambourine, and you will go out, or you will come out from an assembly of people playing. For you planted vineyards on the mountains of Samaria. Plant and praise, because there is a day of calling for those who plead for the mountains of Ephraim. Get up and go up to Zion, to Yahweh our God. Because this is what Yahweh said to Jacob. Be cheerful and neigh at the head of the nations. Make a hearing and give praise. Say, Yahweh saved his people, the remnant of Israel. Look, I myself am bringing them from the north, and I will gather them from the end of the earth at the feast of Passover. That's what that Passover word is. Pesach. And they will give birth to a large crowd, and they will return here. They went out with weeping, and I will bring them back with comfort, lodging them by trenches of water. Think Zion on this part. Lodging them by trenches of water on the right path, and they shall not wander in it. For I have become a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the words of Yahweh, O nations, and declare them to the islands far away. Say, he who is scattered, Israel, will gather him and keep him like he who tends his flock. because Yahweh has redeemed Jacob. He has delivered him from the hand of those stronger than he, and they will come and be cheerful on Mount Zion. And they will come to the good things of Yahweh, to a land of grain and wine and fruit and livestock and sheep, and their souls will be just like a fruitful tree, and they will no longer be hungry. At that time the virgins will rejoice in an assembly of young men, and the aged women will rejoice. And I will turn their grief to joy and make them cheerful. I will magnify and make the souls of the priests drunk, the sons of Levi. And my people will be filled with my good things. This is what Yahweh said. A voice of lamentation and weeping and mourning was heard in Ramah. Rachel, weeping over her sons, was unwilling to desist, because they were no more. I had a thought, and I want to... Too early. I'll say it later. I did have a note here, complete side tangent, and I put this in... if I use parentheses, it tells me that this isn't technically part of the study, but I did find it. Aged men. At the time, the virgins will rejoice in the assembly of young men and the aged women. I get there's a difference in ages here, but that sure sounds like some mortal beings, right? Because my note here says in 13, because the aged men fought, the aged men, would they have not fought against Yahweh at his coming? And Yeshua at his coming in the valley of Kidron? So, is it Kidron, right? I think so.
Is it that they...
Because there's
Isn't
another
they
verse that
fought
does say the
against?
same thing.
Or just they were there at that time?
Yeah, why are you assuming fighting here for those people?
Well, this is this is already within the Zion. So that means, where are the older men? Now, I'm obviously there's younger women as well missing here, but I get to another verse later that does mention, once again, it even mentions young men, young women, and old women, and it doesn't mention the men again. It's very odd.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the only ones who are going to be immortal for sure are those who are resurrected in the first resurrection, but there's still mortals that are with them. Yeah.
Tiny side. I see what you're saying, that they were there at that time, but it's not necessarily that they were against it. Because it seems like there's going to be a number of people that just didn't.
Yeah, in Revelation it says there's a great multitude beyond number that overcame the tribulation. And
Yeah, I'm not saying that there wouldn't be any men, but yeah, it does seem that there might be, because even when you see in the law too, that there's a lot more. Like if hypothetically Joshua went and took out a nation, the women and the children would be saved, but the men technically would be the ones trying to fight back, so they'd be the ones not saved. Anyway, move on. All right, go back one. Okay, this is what Yahweh said. Let your voice cease from weeping and your eyes from your tears, because there is a reward for your works, and they will return from the land of their enemies, a stable place for your children. I have heard a hearing, Ephraim lamenting. You have disciplined me, and I was disciplined. I was not taught like a calf. Return to me, and I will return, because you are Yahweh my God. Because after my captivity I repented, and after I knew, I groaned for the day of shame, and I declared to you that I received disgrace since my youth. Ephraim is a beloved son to me, a child to revel in. For because my words are in him, I will remember him with remembrance. Therefore I hurried for him. In showing mercy, I will show mercy to him, says Yahweh. And I think this is the mercy. Set yourself up, O Zion. Make retaliation. I bet that might be the phrase he says where the Son of Man even knows not the time of the hour, and that's the declaration. Give your heart to the shoulders. Remember, or return on the road that you had gone, O Virgin Israel. Return to your city's mourning. How long will you turn back, dishonored daughter? For Yahweh has created salvation for a fresh planting. People will go about in deliverance. For this is what Yahweh said. They will still say this word, in the land of Judah and in his cities when I will return his exile back. Blessed be Yahweh on his righteous, holy mountain. That sounds like where all the nations will bow. If the nations are saying he's on the mountain, I'm sure they would.
Oh, yeah.
Giant glowing city. That's pretty crazy. And there will be inhabitants in the cities of Judah and in his whole land, together with the farmer, and he will be taken with the flock. Because I made every thirsty soul drunk, and I filled every hungry soul. Therefore I was awakened, and I saw, and my sleep was sweet to me. Therefore look, the days are coming, says Yahweh. There's one of those sleep mentions. That's not even the one I was talking about. And I will sow Israel and Judah with the seed of a human and with the seed of an animal. And this will happen. Just as I was watching over them to take down and to mistreat, so will I watch over them to build and plant. I'm going to read that one again. Just as I was watching, Yahweh was watching over them to take down and to mistreat, so I will watch over them to build and to plant. He only chastises sons. And I wrote here, seems Yahweh himself is excited for this day. This is what he's looked forward to since the beginning. Since this is what he promised from the beginning. If an earthly father knows how to give good gifts, our heavenly Father also gets excited when we receive our good gifts.
And that's another thing to notice, that it's Israel and Judah. So they have to come together first before they can go over there. So they're not there yet.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know if it's this verse of this Jeremiah section or another one, but I do have one where it point blank says, both houses will be one. There will no longer be two houses. Point blank. In those days they shall not say, the fathers have eaten unripe grapes, and the teeth of the children are set on edge. But rather each will die for his own sins. And the teeth of the one who eats unripe grapes will be set on edge. Look, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, and I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I established with their fathers on the day I seized their hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. For they did not remain in my covenant, and I neglected them, declares Yahweh. For this is the covenant that I will establish with the house of Israel after those days, declares Yahweh. In giving, I will give my laws into their mind, and I will write them upon their hearts. And I will become a God for them, and they will become a people for me. And each one will not teach his fellow citizen, or each his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, because everyone will know me, from the smallest of them to the greatest of them, because I will be gracious to their injustices, and I shall not remember their sins any longer. And if the heavens were raised up to the heights, declares Yahweh, and the ground of the earth lowered downward, even then I would not reject the race of Israel, declares Yahweh. Concerning all the things that I have done, this is what Yahweh said. He who gives the sun as light for the day, and the moon and the stars as light for the night, and the shout in the sea, and its waves roared, Yahweh Almighty is his name. If these laws cease from before my face, declares Yahweh, then the race of Israel will cease to be a people before my face all the days. Look, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, and a city will be built for Yahweh. From the tower, and it gives us points. I didn't highlight this when I read this several weeks, at this point, months ago, goodness. But I went through to read change the highlighting, and I'm like, oh my goodness. We read it, but it just didn't wrap my head around it, I don't suppose. From the tower of Hananel to the gate of the corner, and its measurement will go out opposite them to the hills of Gareb, and it will be surrounded all around with choice stones, and all the Azaramoth to Nakal Kidron, to the corner of the horse gate to the east, will be a sanctuary to Yahweh. And it will never again come to an end, and it will not be taken down for eternity. This has not happened, even barely.
Did you happen to get that on a map?
I'd love to. After reading it again, I went, you know what? I bet we probably could get some sort of something little bit of a rough draft map. Because
Not
that's
Missouri.
Yeah, no, it's not Missouri. But no, this is that's very very descriptive.
Yeah.
Like that's not.
It's being built on Earth.
It sounds like Jeremiah might have known these point blank spots.
Oh, they will be built.
Well, yeah, no, it seems like that's what he's doing.
He's got to burn everything first,
Yeah.
and then he's going to rebuild it.
That's crazy. All right. So that context is in our minds. We have some more. It's got different details, but I do think it's interesting the things it decided to give more detail on. So let's read this. Ezekiel 36. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, the house of Israel dwelt upon their land, and they defiled it by their way, and their idols, and their impurities. And their way became before my face like the impurity of a woman sitting apart. And I poured out my wrath against them, and I scattered them among the nations and drove them away among the territories. I judged them according to their way and according to their sin. And they entered among the nations where they entered there, and they profaned my holy name. Oh, yeah. My holy name when they said, These are the people of Yahweh, and they have come from his land. And I had pity on them on account of my holy name, which the house of Israel profaned among the nations whenever they entered there. On account of this, say to the house of Israel, This is what Yahweh says, I shall act not for you, O house of Israel, but rather on account of my holy name, which you profaned among the nations when you went there. And I shall sanctify my great name, which was profaned among the nations, which you profaned in the middle of them. And the nations will know that I am Yahweh when I am sanctified before their eyes. That's the city. And I shall take you from the nations and gather you from all the lands, and I will lead you into your land. And I shall sprinkle clean water upon you, and you will be cleansed from all your impurities and from all your idols, and I will cleanse you. And I shall give you a new heart, and establish a new spirit in you, and remove the heart made of stone from your flesh, and give you a heart of flesh. And I shall establish my spirit in you, and I shall work so that you walk in my duties, and keep my judgments, and do them. And you will dwell upon the land which I gave to your fathers, and you will be my people, and I will be your God. And I shall save you from all your impurities, and I shall summon the grain, and multiply it, and shall not give hunger upon it. And I will multiply the tree's fruit and the field's produce, so that you do not receive the reproach of famine among the nations. And you will remember your evil ways and your practices which are not good. And you will be angry before their face because of your transgressions and because of their abominations. And I will act not on account of you, says Yahweh the Lord. It is known to you, be ashamed and turn from your ways, O house of Israel. This is what Adonai Yahweh says. On the day that I will cleanse you from all your transgressions, I also will settle the cities, and deserted cities will be restored. And the destroyed land will be worked instead of being destroyed. In the eyes of all who pass by, and they will say, That land became destroyed like a garden of delight. And the deserted and blotted out and utterly destroyed cities sat secure. And the nations which were left behind around you will know that I, Yahweh, built what was torn down and planted what was removed. I, Yahweh, have spoken, and I will do it. This is what Adonai Yahweh says. Yet for this I will be sought for the house of Israel, to make them. I will multiply them, humans like sheep, like holy sheep, like the sheep of Jerusalem in its festivals. So the deserted cities will be full of humans like sheep, and they will know that I am Yahweh. And the hand of Yahweh came upon me, and Yahweh led me out by the Spirit and placed me in the middle of the plain. And this was full of human bones. And he led me to them around in a circle, and look, very many on the face of the plain, very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, will these bones live? And I said, O Yahweh, you know these things. And he said to me, Prophesy against these bones, and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. This is what Yahweh says to these bones. Look, I am bringing a living spirit into you, and I will place tendons upon you and bring flesh upon you, and stretch out skin over you, and place my spirit into you, and you will live, and know that I am Yahweh. And I prophesied just as he commanded me. And this happened when I prophesied. And look, an earthquake, and the bones each drew near to its joint. And I looked, and look, tendons and flesh were growing upon them, and skin was coming up over them, and there was no spirit in them. And he said to me, prophesy to the spirit, prophesy, son of man, and say to the spirit, this is what Yahweh says. Come from the four winds and blow into these corpses, and they will live. And I prophesied just as he commanded me. And the Spirit entered them, and they lived and stood on their feet, a very great company. And Yahweh spoke to me, saying, Son of man, these bones are all the house of Israel. And they say, our bones have become withered. Our hope has been destroyed. We have perished. On account of this, prophesy and say, this is what Yahweh says. Look, I am opening your tombs, and I shall bring you up from your tombs and lead you into the land of Israel. And you will know that I am Yahweh when I open your graves, that I might bring my people up from the graves. And I will place my spirit into you, and you will live. And I will set you upon your land, and you will know that I am Yahweh. I have spoken and will do it. So yes, resurrection is included in these promises, because it kind of has to be.
Notice the one component of the body that's not there.
Blood. Because even when Yeshua was prophesied, he said, like when they thought he was a ghost, he said, it is I, as I myself touch me and see, for a spirit has not flesh and bone, that you see that I have. It didn't say blood. And Paul says flesh and blood cannot hit the kingdom of God. But if you're just inspirited with the body, that's a different story.
Yeah.
There's a connection I know.
That's a good point.
It does speak of flesh.
Yeah, there is some sort of physicality, more so than we normally would just.
Yeah, this sounds like regeneration, like literal, not Lutheran or Reformed
It's
regeneration.
kind of like he's letting the body be alive to just be alive.
Yeah.
Similar to those, he didn't let them die in Revelation, even though they wanted the rocks to fall. He didn't give them death.
Except this one's a good one. They're not in
this
pain.
is a good one. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
Says Yahweh. The word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, take for yourself a rod and write on it, Judah and the sons of Israel who are joined to him, and take for yourself a second rod and write upon it, for Joseph, a rod of Ephraim, and all the sons of Israel who have been added to him. And you shall join them together to one another for yourself, to bind them into one rod, and they shall be in your hand. And this will happen when the sons of your people say to you, will you not proclaim to us what these things are to you? And you will say to them, this is what Yahweh says. Look, I shall take the tribe of Joseph, which is by the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel joined to him, and I shall establish them over the tribe of Judah, and they shall be one rod in the hand of Judah. And the rods upon which you wrote upon them shall be in your hand before them, and you shall say to them, this is what Yahweh the Lord says. Look, I am taking all the house of Israel from the middle of the nations where they entered there, and I shall gather them from all those surrounding them and lead them into the land of Israel. And I shall make them a nation in my land and in the mountains of Israel, and they will have one ruler. They will no longer be two nations, and no longer divided into two kingdoms, that they should never again be defiled by their idols. And I will rescue them from all their transgressions by which they sinned, and I will cleanse them. And they will be for me a people, and I, Yahweh, will be a God for them. And my servant David will be ruler in the middle of them. He will be one shepherd of all, because they walk in my ordinances and keep my judgments and do them. And they will dwell upon their land, which I have given to my servant Jacob, there where their fathers dwelt, and they will dwell upon it. And my servant David will be a ruler for eternity, and I will make a covenant of peace with them. It will be an eternal covenant with them. And I will place my sanctuary in the middle of them for eternity, And my habitation will be among them, and I will be God for them, and they will be my people. And the nations will know that I am Yahweh who sanctifies them, when my sanctuary is in the middle of them for eternity. Biggest thing I noticed here, Yahweh's here, and they're still nations. So it's not just us.
Well, it alludes to that in Revelation as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
I think it's Revelation.
even in the new heavens and new earth, there's still nations that come into it. So there's still other ethnicities and national identities.
Zechariah 14 says,
Says don't come up to the piece of tabernacles.
Right.
They're not going to gain any land on that land, so they're still there.
I think it goes to Nathan's.
It's not part of the Jewish
Sorry, is your full name Nathan or is it just Nate?
It is Nathan.
Okay, cool. I'll because I don't want to misspoke. But but it's like to your point, like what you were finding in the Septuagint, like the spermati and sperma. So sperma is like its own, like a very honed seed. By the way, or is it the other way? Anyway,
Spermati. Spermati is the home seed.
is the home seed, and then the other one is more of a broad sense, and so it's like anyone in the nations can be saved and still be the nations, but they're in covenant with God. But then you have God's inheritance, which is Israel, and they're given the land specifically. The nations are blessed by that by extension, but not all of them necessarily become Israel.
And this is this harkens back to me. It harkens back to the new covenant because it says that you will no longer need to teach the nations, for they will know me. And it says, and the nations will know that I am Yahweh.
I thought the earlier part was just for Israel, like the everyone there that would have to be taught was those of Israel, wasn't it?
That was the new covenant. This was back in Jeremiah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
That's the new
Because
covenant.
the everyone in context there was like Israel, Israel and Judah. They wouldn't have to teach each other.
This is no one.
No, I get that, but I thought it was in context was like no one in Israel.
But you see this idea that there's no debating anything. Like, this is Yahweh. His city is here. 1,500 mile cube, whatever you want to do, but his city is here. They know that he's Yahweh. And it makes me think about that. You won't need to teach because they know.
He's right in front of you.
He's right there.
Yeah, it'll be a different age. It'll be a millennium. And
Yeah.
so this age of our understanding is going to end, and then you're going to have this whole millennium understanding of how things are supposed to be run, and then you can make your decision over that 1,000 years whether you think that's the best idea or not.
Yeah, you still get to choose, even though it's there.
As I was going through these again, I had a thought. We know that the tent of meeting, tabernacle, had the Holy of Holies, the court, and like an outer court. So the presence was in the middle piece. And the laymen were allowed out here, and then obviously, if you're not even close to holy, you're out here. But the entire earth is Yahweh's. So when it says in Revelation that there's no temple because they are the temple, what if the entire city is the Holy of Holies? And that's why the defilers are not allowed in there. And the earth is the outer court. The entirety of the earth. We don't need a Holy of Holies. He's already got his little RV he set up down here.
Well, what was in the Holy of Holies? That's going to be the answer to your question. What was put in the Holy of Holies specifically?
The things he wanted directly next to his presence. What, the mercy seat, which is the throne to some degree. The Ark of the Covenant. Altar of incense. Like stuff he wants right around him, which when you did your throne room study,
Right.
that's the stuff that's right in front of him.
Well, yeah, because like the word in the Greek that's translated as temple in Revelation is really the word of being sanctuary.
Yeah.
So it's basically there's no sanctuary.
Yeah, there's no Holy of Holies
because God
they are
and the Lamb are that. Because what's the point of even having a man-made or some sort of handmade mercy seat when you actually have the Father there?
Yeah.
And then Christ would essentially be the ark because he's the sanctuary that God dwells in by the Spirit. So you have what that was pointing to, those types and shadows. You actually have the reality. So there would be no point of having like a structure one if that makes sense, because they are that. That is what it was pointing to. Because even in Ezekiel, isn't it in the temple vision in Ezekiel? There's like two mercy seats.
There
The
is
greater and the
thrones.
lesser.
Yeah, two
Yeah.
thrones. Yeah, greater one and a smaller one. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the mercy seats are still there because that's their thrones.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Well, my thought was before they were concealed. He likes his dark clouds, his mountain covered in smoke, Holy of Holies, where only one man is even allowed to, because obviously he'd die otherwise. At that time, because he's got his entire he's created his city, he doesn't need to be concealed. The light's so bright, that's why there's no need for a sun and a moon, because he's so bright. Everybody can see him from a distance. So yeah, he wouldn't need to be concealed in that moment. Because if he's concealed, how can all know him?
Right.
And know where he is and all that. But anyway, let's go on. All right. Jumping ahead a little bit, but I did want to put this back in here. Hebrews 12:18, because it's pretty clear. For you have not come to something that can be touched, and to a burning fire, and to darkness, and to gloom, and to a whirlwind, and to the noise of a trumpet, and to the sound of words which those who heard begged not another word be spoken to them. For they could not endure what was commanded. If even an animal touches the mountain, it must be stoned. And the spectacle was so terrifying that Moses said, I am terrified and trembling. But you have come to Mount Zion, and to the city of the living Yahweh, to the heavenly Jerusalem, and to tens of thousands of angels, and to the festal gathering, sounds like Passover, an assembly of the firstborn who are enrolled in heaven, and to Yahweh, the judge of all, and to the spirits of righteous people who made perfect, and to Yeshua, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks better than Abel's does. Watch out that you do not refuse the one who is speaking. For if those did not escape when they refused the one who warned them on earth, much less will we escape if we reject the one who warns from heaven, whose voice shook the earth at that time. But now he has promised, saying, Yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also heaven. Now the phrase yet once more indicates the removal of what is shaken, namely, things that have been created, in order that the things that were not shaken may remain. Therefore, since we are receiving an unshakable kingdom, let us be thankful, through which let us serve Yahweh acceptably, with awe and reverence. For indeed our Yahweh is a consuming fire.
So heaven can be shaken.
I think it's the firmament being
How do you shake?
like
vacuum?
rolled back by a scroll. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was getting at. Like, how do you shake? Yeah.
If it doesn't have atoms, it can't be shaken. Yeah. All right. I'm going to read a little bit out of Jubilees. Because it, of course, mentions some promises and mentions a city. Let thy mercy, O Yahweh, be lifted up upon thy people, and create in them an upright spirit. And let not the spirit of Belial rule over them, to accuse them before thee, and to ensnare them from all the paths of righteousness, so that they may perish from before thy face. But they are thy people and thy inheritance, which thou hast delivered with thy great power from the hands of the Egyptians. Create in them a clean heart and a holy spirit, and let them not be ensnared in their sins from henceforth into eternity. That sounds like the Psalm of David.
One thing there, I think I had noticed before, talks about inheritance from all the paths of righteousness, so that they may perish from before thy face. Some efforts or teachings that have indicated that there was not a final ending, but that sounds like a final ending, a second death.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah.
Yeah, what a perfect description of walking the narrow road and being pulled off of it. And because you're pulled off the narrow road, now you're going to perish before him.
Ensnared. If we remember back to what? Is that James or Timothy, where it literally says they are led away by their own desires?
Yep.
Satan can't do anything to us. We let him do it. We do something unrighteous or dwell on a thought unrighteous too long, Satan then has authority over us.
Open door.
Mm-hmm. I'll keep going. And Yahweh said unto Moses, I know their contrariness and their thoughts and their stiff-neckedness. And that stiff-necked, how would you say that?
No, I just like the word.
Nakedness. Let's try that again.
Neckheadness.
Yep, there you go.
Man.
Stiff naked.
I know their contrariness and their thoughts and their stiff-neutedness. And they will not be obedient till they confess their own sin and the sin of their fathers. And after this they will turn to me in all uprightness and with all their heart and with all their soul. And I will circumcise the foreskin of their heart and the foreskin of their heart of their seed. Of their seed. And I will create in them a Holy Spirit, and I will cleanse them so that they shall not turn away from me from that day unto eternity.
Bryson's laughing.
Great, I forgot it was live. That's great. I don't even know where I was.
Circumcise the
Unto
foreskin of
eternity,
their-
and cleanse so they do not turn away from me. And their souls will cleave to me and to all my commandments, and they will fulfill my commandments. And I will be their father, and they shall be my children. And they all shall be called children of the living God. And every angel and every spirit shall know, yea, they shall know that these are my children, and that I am their father in uprightness and righteousness, and that I love them. And do thou write down for thyself all these words which I declare unto thee on this mountain, the first and the last, which shall come to pass in all the divisions of the days in the law, and in the testimony, and in the weeks, and in the jubilees, unto eternity, until I descend and dwell with them throughout eternity. And he said to the angel of the presence, write for Moses from the beginning of creation till my sanctuary has been built among them for all eternity. And Yahweh will appear to the eyes of all, and all shall know that I am the God of Israel, and the father of all the children of Jacob, and king on Mount Zion for all eternity. And Zion and Jerusalem shall be holy.
If you notice there, he's just saying, he's only the Yah of Israel.
Exactly.
That's it. So you've got to become part of
Exactly.
that
And
group.
we cannot forget this. We cannot
forget this one piece.
Israel was the name he gave to someone who had just claimed him as his God. So we are in Israel. That's the only reason Jacob is considered Israel, is if they continue in the teachings. If they actually recognize that Yahweh is in charge. Because clearly you can be, quote, born of Israel, born of Jacob, not recognizing Yahweh, you're not considered Israel. No matter how much blood, it could be 100%. Means nothing. All right, I'm ready. Is this the one I'm excited for? Maybe. I don't know. I think so. Okay. There's one in here that I really, really like, and I think about it periodically, randomly, all the time. It's from 2nd Esdras, and it is what happens, why it happens, but it's what happens when we die. What we get to, it's almost like the understandings we get revealed to us before we're taken to Sheol to wait. So here we go. Therefore I say to you, O nations that hear and understand, await your shepherd. He will give you everlasting rest, because he who will come at the end of the age is close at hand. Be ready for the rewards of the kingdom, because the eternal light will shine upon you forevermore.
Can I stop there for a sec?
Yep.
The age is close at hand. We talk about that all the time with like the New Testament language that, oh, he's close and he's coming soon. And all this. This is Ezra. This is the time of Nehemiah and the temple being rebuilt. And it says, hey, he's close at hand. So even back, what is that, 400 BC?
David said it was close then.
They said it was close then.
Because the way the Father views ages very differently. Because what? I think that's probably the division of the 14 generations between like Noah to was it David? No, that can't be right. But you get the point. He views ages very differently. Even Baruch has those 12 divisions.
Well, it also depends on what chronology you go with, though.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, depending on what chronology you're using, that is, if the 7,000 year thing is true, you're either closer to it or you're further away.
Yeah, I'm ignoring the math because the numbers are all over the
Because
place.
that also affects how you see that.
It's still at least, well, now it's about 2,200 years beforehand,
Yeah,
or 2,400 years beforehand, and a good 400 years before Yeshua.
Yeah.
So, flee from the shadow of this age. Receive the joy of your glory. I publicly call on my Savior to witness. Receive what Yahweh has entrusted to you and be joyful, giving thanks to him who has called you to heavenly kingdoms. Rise and stand and see at the feast of Yahweh, sounds like Passover again, the number of those who have been sealed, those who have departed from the shadow of this age and have received glorious garments from Yahweh. Take again your full number, O Zion, and conclude the list of your people who are clothed in white, who have fulfilled the law of Yahweh. The number of your children whom you desired is full. Beseech Yahweh's power that your people, who have been called from the beginning, may be made holy.
Let me make a comment on that. 39, it talks about the shadow of this age. So we're actually, this is kind of like our trial, walking through those shadows to get to the light on the other side. So I mean, it's not like, oh, this is it, and we're going to have the best life imaginable. It's a matter of, we're supposed to go through the trials and be tested so that we can make it into this area.
Yeah, if we're still in dispersion, we're still being tested.
Exactly.
Yeah. I, Ezra, saw on Mount Zion a great multitude, which I could not number, and they were all praising Yahweh with songs. Sounds like Revelation. Oh, it did it again. Hold on. Where's Riker when you need him?
Right here.
My watch. It did that thing again.
Oh, I dropped it down.
I can't fix that fast enough. I cannot.
Go do it. I'll take care of it.
So I took this slide from my Fear of Yahweh, this verse. This is from Isaiah 46. And the last line's cut off because that actual fear is way over there. What's this, slide 66? You can probably just backspace. I did a bunch of tabs in the middle. And yes, it's going to be all of them. Enable editing. Here we come. Close enough.
Yep.
All right. All to get forth. Great. Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and read. This is from Isaiah 46. Remember these things and sigh. Repent, you who have been misled, return in the heart. Remember the former things from eternity, that I am Yahweh, and there is no one further besides me, who declares beforehand the final things before they happen. And at once they are accomplished. And I said, all my counsel will stand, and I will do all that I have resolved. Summoning a bird from the east, and from a land afar, concerning what I have resolved, I spoke, and I brought forth. I created, and I made him. I brought him forth, and prospered him on his way. Listen to me, you who have destroyed the heart, who are far from righteousness. I have brought my righteousness near, and will not delay the salvation that is from me. I have given salvation to Israel in Zion for an act of glory. Quick note. So Nate went over, let me find where that was. Nate went over how it was, he fashioned the ages, but it was actually just history. He told us history.
Hebrews 2.
The former things from eternity beforehand, the final things before they happened. That's the point. That's how we know he's Yahweh. He gives us a promise and says, here's how it's going to happen, and then it happens.
And he has foreknowledge.
Exactly.
Ultimate.
But from our perspective, he tells us, and then it happens exactly like that. He's literally saying in here, no one else can do that. No one else made everything. He did. Here's another one I needed to put in here. About the chosen ones I speak now, and concerning them I take up my proverb. My holy great one will come out from his dwelling place, and the God of eternity will walk upon the earth and upon Mount Sinai. He will appear from his encampment and shine forth in the power of his strength from the heaven of heavens, and all will be afraid, and the watchmen will believe, and they will sing hidden in all the high places of the earth, and all the high places of the earth will shake. Trembling and great fear will take them unto the end of the earth, and they will shake and fall. The high mountains shall break up, and the high hills will be made low to slip through the mountains. They will melt like beeswax from the face of the fire and flame. And the earth will be divided, a division like grapes. As much as is upon the earth will destroy itself, and judgment will be against everyone.
Did you say that? It says that the earth, it's like the entire earth is applied there. So I don't know if that's like the splitting. Of
Yeah,
the earth that helps the woman in Revelation or not.
Because other translations will say that the earth will be broken asunder. I think like the R.H. Charles version says.
Because I don't know that it's ever been listed as the earth has been divided like that
Divided.
before. So this will be
Yeah, I can't remember the reference. I mean, we know we've heard the mountains before. That's Isaiah. We've heard the
We talked about when he steps on the mountains, steps on the mountain, it will be split, right?
It's the Mount of Olives is split to makes a pathway to those who flee from Judah.
I know there's at least a couple great earthquakes. I know there's at least one, but that's more than one.
Isaiah 24 talks about the earth being broken too, like God distorting the surface and all.
We know he raises the valleys.
But it almost sounds like he's walking around, like strolling around upon the earth.
I like the
Like,
sorry, go ahead.
he's strolling around on the earth, and as he's walking, the mountains are melting, and all this stuff is going on.
What if he walks from one spot to get to his kingdom? Like that's the kingly stroll. That's scary.
Because it says he will walk upon the earth.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting though on that last line. You go back. It says that as much as is upon the earth will destroy itself. So it's probably talking a lot about the things and whatever beings that are not human destroying each other.
Well, I don't know when the locusts are removed.
Yeah.
It's about now. About this time frame. And at this point in time, is Leviathan and Behemoth still here? That's about all the same general time.
I don't know when they get killed.
I think they get slain on that day of the Lord.
Yeah, so it's for the food part. Yeah, because this seems to be kind of spanning a lot all at once. Yeah, I don't know. The one I wanted from Second Cedrus is later. I just realized that. Okay. Now that that's all fresh on our minds, let's jump back here. Now the promises have a clearer picture. So we've got, what all did we hit? The rapture. Just kidding. Resurrection. We've got Zion, the city. We've got the Father with us directly. The laws are literally on our hearts. So it's new covenant promises, could flip-flop, all that's together. It's all the promise is the new covenant, and all the things, all that's together. And if that wasn't enough, I thought this was cool. Might not be as cool to you. Thought it was an interesting word here. This word homeland is patradia. Patrada. The root word's pater, it's father. No, yeah, that's makes sense. I mean, your dad's inheritance kind of thing. But you could also word this here as the land of my father's land, or the father's house. Which makes sense in that prodigal son situation where he went back to his father's house. So this could be read, for those who say such things, make clear that they are seeking the father's house. I thought that was cool.
Is it used anywhere else?
I'm sure.
My version says fatherland.
But yeah, apparently it's in that version. I didn't look at the versions. But yes, this patreta is, the root is pater. Every other time I could find it. Yeah. It was a quick glance, and I was like, oh. It wasn't even something to argue. It's like, the homeland in the New Testament a lot, it was hometown. So every time in the New Testament where it said hometown, 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 he went back to his hometown. It was just patreta every time.
So could it also be like translated as like fatherland?
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Yeah.
So that is like a
The only other,
fatherland?
I think I put it, no I didn't put that in here. Other translations use the word country sometimes, home country or something like that. But yeah, homeland and hometown are typically what they use. It's just the idea of going home to where your inheritance would be.
Even Jacob in Genesis, like once he saw the dream, what he proclaimed after that.
When he woke up, was like, "This is the house of hell." So he referred to the land itself
So he
as the house
recognized
of
that.
hell.
Yeah.
But like, think about that with this, for those who say such things. They know they're strangers here. The Father's house. Homeland wouldn't make any sense. They've never been there. So this word is typically hometown. Like Yeshua left to go back to his hometown of Galilee. That's the one it was using this same word. So that means this is recognizing that you're calling that your hometown. You've never been there.
Good. Yeah, it's better not to use home.
Yeah. So that for this, that's clearly making it clear that they're doing this in faith.
Well, and also in their times too,
God hadn't like driven out the inhabitants yet, so like
Yeah.
I guess you could say like the conditions were not in place for it to have been. I guess you could say God's ideal. You know what I mean?
There's still lots of abominations and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll keep going. Now back to our verses. With the promises in mind, the next verses make immediate sense, but without them, even the translators had a little bit of difficulty. And you'll see what I'm saying in a second. And if they remember that land from which they went out, they would have had opportunity to return. So once I wrap my head around this one, I looked to see how other translations worded this. And they're all about the same. 98% said land here. So where it says, remember that land. So 98% said land. A few others said country. And the past, present, and future tenses within this one sentence made it very confusing. So we're going to have a conversation about it. So I had a few ideas, but I want to hear when it says, and if they remember that land from which they went out, they would have had opportunity to return. What does that sound like to you? Open discussion with me, because it took me a minute, and I want to make sure it wasn't just me being kind of dumb. That last sentence in 15.
I kind of get that if you,
I can put the rest of the last bit there if you'd like.
they would have had opportunity to return, basically, in my opinion, means that they wouldn't have remembered that land if they hadn't left it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get from that.
There you go.
Or God somehow gave them a longing for a land that they hadn't been, which I think most people here long for something that we can't quite find here on earth, right?
Yeah, okay.
Today, not
We've seen a glimpse of something, so we know it could be better, and that's what we're looking for.
exactly. But when it says they would have the opportunity to return, that to me is like a conditional futurist. I don't know. I'm not good with all the English words.
No, you're good. I wrote down a few ideas, and you're hitting one. So
one of them is like that we might, if conditional, have the opportunity, meaning there's a chance that we will get to go back. In my opinion, that is saying it makes when I'm reading this sentence, it makes me think of like when Abraham is being called back, like go to Canaan, like
okay,
or like come out of Egypt, like he is calling us out of somewhere. But that whole would have the opportunity to return feels very conditional.
I spent many days on this one verse. So
What's
yes.
that?
I spent many days on this one verse.
Is land even in the text? I don't see
It's
that
not.
it is.
It's not.
So basically, it's saying if they remember that which they came out, or that from which they came, so that
That's
kind of
the key.
indicates where they were before God even called them, like wherever they
Where was that?
started. Well, in Abraham's
I was trying to
case-
get all the
In
pieces.
Abraham's case, it was the Ur of the Chaldees.
Right.
He was in a different land altogether.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the Holy Land from where he started. He had to go through the Holy Land. Go to the Holy Land. That's just why I was looking at the different.
Yeah.
It's like the ones that are honest, they italicize.
Yeah, I
which
thought
means it's not in the
taking
text.
land would make it easier to understand, and it didn't really help much.
Yeah.
The land doesn't exist either in mine. It says it has an italicized place.
Yeah, it's so that means in the Greek I looked, land's not there,
So land's not there. It's not
and
about land.
some of the other translations put
It's
land
like
in
that
place
place
for
they
some
used to be in, that mindset.
That from which they were, basically.
So is this basically saying like, kind of like the Egyptians leaving, not Egyptians, the Israelites leaving Egypt, like, if you want to go back, go back?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a dang puzzle for me. It was a puzzle.
That's what kind of sounds like.
remember
I mean, that's the way I feel, like, if you're along the road, and like Lot's wife, and you want to go back, you're gonna have the opportunity.
That is the context of this. He gives examples of people who went from a place and walked with God, like they walked where God wanted them to go. So
Well,
that makes sense.
This says, and yet if they had indeed kept remembering that from which they had come out. So it's kind of like Lot when she turned around trying to solve. It's kind of like when the Israelites get out of Egypt and the mixed multitude came up with the idea that, hey, let's go back to Egypt, right? And then the Israelites were like, well, I guess that does sound kind of good. But the thing was that they're if they had been kept, so they could. It says that if they indeed kept remembering it. So either their memory was wiped, or they decided, you know what, I'm not here to stay. I'm gonna be looking for that other land.
Okay.
Something better than what. Obviously, this place is not the best, guys. We don't want to hang out here.
All right. Yeah, so I wrote down. I wanted to obviously try to wrap my head around it. What happened? Mine is on home. It went to the beginning. And you're all in the same spot. That doesn't make sense.
I think it could mean
It
that
just crashed.
we can't get
Hello?
back to what we had in the beginning because we don't remember what we had in the beginning.
Bye.
Back to what we had in the Garden of Eden.
He's supposed to wipe our memory so that we're not sad for the people that didn't make it.
You said we can't get back to the Garden of Eden. Is that what you said?
Well, we can't get back to what we had there. Eternal life, no pain, none of that.
Well, I've also never been there.
Because
Yeah, but your
Fair.
forefathers have.
Well, yeah.
because
My
we
fathers.
haven't been keeping that, and we haven't been remembering. We don't remember it. We haven't been following that.
You know,
So we can't get back.
as I was studying that verse specifically, because I realized the rest of the verses they just made sense, and then this one was like it just felt like randomly placed in there because I didn't at face value I didn't get it, and I tried reading it in context, but I still didn't get it. And then I went from one thought, I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, and I kept like deductive reasoning going, well, that can't be this, can't be this, can't be this. Wrote a few of those ideas down, went and talked to her about it, kind of pacing around as I do, and I'm trying to mull over. And then I said, well, how's this verse read to you? And I read it out loud, and she gave me something completely different I didn't think of. And I'm like, okay, great. So I was still confused. And then I finally wrapped my head around it, and it was so much simpler than I realized. And I was like, this could have been worded any other way in English, and it would have helped so much. And I like it. That's why I led with 98% of the other translations say something exactly like this, so that none of them as a unit got it. The Aramaic made even less sense. But I'll mention that one later. But here's the thoughts I had at first. So my first thought, initially, after reading like the bigger context with Abraham in there and everything, first thought was, well, Abraham. First thought went to Abraham since we just talked about him in the verses before. He left Ur of the Chaldees. So that's what my first thought. He left the land. So the land came to mind again. But this can't be right because this verse is talking about all those that died and live now in faith. So it's including all the people that just died, and we just hit that it's talking about those who seek that homeland. So this is all of us. This is all of mankind. So that didn't make sense. Then I went to the next part. My next thought was remembering, as in the land of Israel, in general repentance, which was kind of what Alex brought to my thought, like the idea of remembering something. It's almost like, well, we remember it, so we return to it. That made sense to me. But it still didn't quite read right, because the dead are included here. They're not actively remembering something to go do something. They would have already had that to do it later. So like the wording didn't, it looked past, and that's what I mentioned earlier. It looked a little bit of past tense, a little bit of future tense, a little bit of present. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. Earth. They're dead. Without the understanding of the Hebraic Sheol, it wouldn't make any sense. So New Testament translators, English specifically, who didn't have Sheol in mind, they've got something else or heaven directly, they didn't even know what they were talking about. It's talking about dying. In life, they remembered. And because in life they remembered, that was the opportunity to return. Because their deeds, whether good or evil, then they get to return. So, earth, they went out. Remember, land's not there. So they remember that they went out. From where? Earth, because they died. And then, obviously, our life test is complete when we're dead.
Is the earth land?
Say it again.
Is the earth the word for land?
You can
In
look.
Hebrew it is. I think it's also the same for.
But it's actually there. That helps. It's actually there.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, did they?
You know, at one point, did it say for those who say such things, make sure they're seeking a homeland, and they remember that the earth from which they went out from would have had opportunity to return.
Not one translation put earth there. They've all put land.
Oh yeah, well because there's not
Because
even
it's
a word.
the word earth.
Sorry, I
is
thought you
literally
were
just
in
for
verse
land.
13. Like you're talking about verse 15.
Well, I wonder if, because it is speaking about that, and the word earth is actually usually the word land. It's not earth as we think of it. It's the word land.
It sure reads like it's the earth in 13. Because they said they confessed that they were aliens and strangers on the earth. So it's like, if they weren't, like he was saying, they have to die to leave this place. And then, for those who speak this way, make it clear they seek the Father's land. Yet, if they indeed kept remembering that from which they had come out, which was the earth, that makes sense, would have had the chance to return.
And yeah, that was another grammar part. If the brain can't wrap around it, it took me a minute because I was like, the grammar's weird. I noticed a footnote. That helped a little bit. But we'll get to that in a second. So during their time on earth, they lived their lives righteously to be counted worthy of the promised city made by Yahweh. They went out, as in died. Opportunity to return is the resurrection, as we just read about. And then, yeah, that grammar piece, which took me a minute to wrap my head around as well, because I was like, why would they word it this way? Because it flip-flops. And if they remember, some of the versions said if they had remembered. So if they remember, sounds active, that land from which they went out, that's past tense, they would have, that's future, had opportunity to return. Oh, what in the world? So the grammar I wrote here, the little note, the opportunity was would have had.
But I think the next verse is going to lend some more definition to
Yes.
that word, so.
Yeah. But yeah, the note here was would have had is in the life part. So they would have had life in life. The returning wasn't the past tense. It's the opportunity part. That's past tense. Does that make sense? Because remember, Greek, they kind of have to rearrange it by the time it makes sense in English. But also, land here isn't in the Greek, so we talked about that already. So earth would have made more sense if the translators understood Sheol. But because they didn't really get it, one of the Aramaic ones, Lamza, something, there's one of the Aramaic ones, it point blank said the promised land. Like they full on didn't get it. They just flipped it. Remember the promised land from which they went out. They didn't leave the promised land. Not this one, Zion specific promised land. That wouldn't have made any sense. Yeah. But yes, so this last sentence. But now they aspire to a better land. Now, because they're dead. That is a heavenly one. And the only way to get there is to be resurrected anyway.
But it's not land again.
Exactly. But now they aspire better. Yeah. But a better earth, because it's renewed. So that makes more sense too. That is a heavenly one.
When heaven comes down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I take a slightly different stab at it?
Sure.
Because it says that those who are seeking a homeland, so it's talking about they're looking at a homeland, they're considering them strangers and temporary residents of the earth. If they were remembering the land from which they came out of as their homeland, they could have gone back to it. They wouldn't have been strangers and residents on the earth. Because they weren't remembering their homeland where they came from, they're actually seeking the Father's land. Then it says now they aspire to a better land that is a heavenly one.
See, I thought that crossed my mind, the idea of technically, Father's a gentleman. If you want to leave, you can leave. And if they remember that land, meaning if he wanted to go back to Ur of the Chaldees, he could have.
Right, because it just talks about that they died in faith without receiving the promises. They couldn't get to the land that they considered the homeland. If the land they considered the homeland was the one that they came out of, then they would have gone. They could have gone back. But they couldn't actually get there because they're aspiring to a better land that is a heavenly one.
I still think the death figures in a little better on that description. Instead of a physical existence where you go from one place to another place. Just because when it does aspire, there's no land mentioned again in 16. And it's talking about
The opportunity doesn't make sense to me. Take that, not that part. I didn't put this in here. Probably should have now that the discussion's gone further. I think opportunity is like aspiration. Aspire to.
I don't know, I haven't dug into the Greek on
Yeah, I think the word was aspire to. So
Because could it be residents?
remember,
in
land's
the
not
land?
there. It's the concept of if they remember
land shouldn't be
that,
there.
just
That's-
whatever we're talking, the context. If they remember
But
whatever they left,
couldn't
They
13
could
be
go back.
residents in the land?
No,
admitting
no,
they were
that's not-
strangers and temporary residents. We're already talking about the people in the faith.
No, because I'm thinking these all died is talking about, so the ones that were wandering and strangers.
It talks about because they dwelled in tents. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They dwelled in tents. It says that 3 or 4 verses before.
Mhm.
So is it all these died in faith? These people that were wandering without receiving the promises. I wonder if it's honed in more than maybe we think.
Well, because even the things he says afterwards, he gives examples that seems to fit that. Like he gives the example of of Isaac and Esau, and he gives the example of Joseph, in Egypt and all that, and then Moses going out from Egypt. It kind of fits. Like I think, kind of what Nate is kind of saying.
Because it goes right back to Abraham.
So you're saying if Abraham just said, no, I'm good, he could have just gone
No,
home?
it's saying it's talking about that he was looking for a city, that he was a stranger in the land, but if the city, the homeland that he was looking for was the land he came out of, he could have gone back there while he was living. But he couldn't do that because he was actually aspiring to the heavenly city, to Zion, that he could not reach while he was alive on this earth.
That's what I was taking from it as well.
And I haven't looked at the Greek, so I don't know if residents on the earth could be residents in the land.
I'm going to venture to say that it would say in the earth instead of on the earth. So they're not on the earth anymore.
So then it could be land. It could be in the land, the residents in the land.
Although Enoch is
They were
included in
in
all
the
these,
land.
so who knows where Enoch
He
was?
included
I
Enoch
think
in
it's
all
not,
of these.
it's not saying in.
Well,
saying
these
on.
all died in faith, is what I was.
But is the all the whole list, or is the all Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that talks about dwelling in tents and wandering?
I don't know. Let's look.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
Noah's in here. It goes from Noah straight to Abraham. So we sure?
But look, by faith he lived in the land of promise. Here's our land.
So it's
In the
as a
land,
stranger,
notice it says in the land.
in
not
the
on
land of
not on
promise,
the
so he's
earth.
already in
as
the
a stranger, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the fellow heirs of the same promise. So these all died in faith. Isaac, Abraham, Jacob, Sarah. All died in faith, wandering about as strangers in this land. Because they couldn't get to their homeland, because their homeland was them aspiring to the heavenly city.
Once it turns heavenly, you've lost everything that was original on the earth.
Which I know completely breaks the one thing we use all the time that says, well, Enoch died. But he clearly dies in Jubilees anyway. But it's the idea that what is all? All is a contextual thing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. I think all the people listed just before that, which would include Enoch, in my opinion, because he would have died anyway.
I'm okay if it does.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't bother me.
Because he had a similar story too. He went from different locations, but it's all by faith. He was separated by.
He did dwell in the city.
Okay.
What city?
Enoch dwelled in the garden.
It depends on which tradition you go with. I guess I don't know if the Book of Enoch says that. Does the Book of Enoch say that? But yeah, he went to the garden.
So does Jubilees.
Yeah, but which I guess it depends on what you think the New Jerusalem is.
Gotta flip it and reverse it.
That's the end of the relevant conversation.
I'll just go back. So hold on. So you're saying that you're thinking that it's the land from which they went out. So you're saying that kind of like if they wanted to go back, they could have.
I'm saying if the land, their homeland, was the land they left, then they could have just gone back. But their homeland wasn't that land, it was the heavenly land, so they could not achieve it. He was looking for a city whose architect and builder was God.
But it didn't say if they had remembered. It says if they remember that land from which they went out. So they were already in the promised land. They left the promised land.
When did they leave the promised land?
Dying.
Go back down to the verse.
Which way?
I don't know, the farther verse.
Yeah, no, this is what you were talking about. By faith, he lived in the land of promise as a stranger, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the fellow heirs of the same promise.
Right.
So obviously he didn't receive the promise, but they're in the land of promise. It's
Right.
nuance. And then we jump two more.
Before he was expecting the city.
Yeah. Architect of
And then we
God,
get
by faith
Sarah.
also Sarah, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, he's father by one man, he's good as dead. As the stars of heaven, seashore. Therefore, all died in faith without receiving the promises, but seeming.
There you go. In 16, that land shouldn't be there.
For those who have such things make clear the sick in the homeland. And if they remember from which they went out, I will remember you with a remembrance.
But if they
From
remember,
Sheol, he's remembering it.
If they remember, they would have had opportunity. That's where you get the two tenses flipped.
But now they aspire to a better land because they used that opportunity in life, is what I was kind of getting at. Yes, the idea of being able to go back to whatever land they left, that did cross my mind. But when I realized land's not point blank there, this is whatever we're talking about, I realized, well, it could flip-flop between this. To know what you're saying, it makes sense. I can't just go, no, you're wrong. But with the earth idea and the concept of technically all of that could also apply to if them dying, it couldn't really settle on which one it was talking about. Because even if it is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, just them, because that would make sense because they literally were in the land of promise, it still could be that they died. And that is them leaving. They left the land of promise because they died. They didn't leave during their life, other than Jacob, at the very end.
They all died in faith.
They all died in their
All
land,
died.
except for Jacob. And they all got returned via bones.
And they went to Sheol.
Yeah, and so they're in Sheol.
And better land,
But
you
if it-
there. It's to a better.
But if it said they would have had opportunity to return, that would be wrong because they
In
do
life,
have
they would.
opportunity to return.
In life, they had to choose how they lived their life. That would have been how they would have had. They have to remember it in life. The tenses were flip-flop and fluked. So this one took me a minute to... We could put a big old to be continued on this one.
I'm okay either way.
I've gone, I'm fine with it too. I've flip-flopped so many times on this one. This was the one this was the bulk of my week, and I'm clearly still not done. So, whatever. Yeah. What? Oh, I forgot I went all the way back to the beginning. Give me a minute. I was so confused. I think
I went too far back.
Yeah, 78. Okay. Talked about that. Okay. All that to say, either way, but now they aspire to a better land. That is a heavenly one. Therefore, Yahweh is not ashamed of them to be called their God, for he has prepared for them a city. So remember, that phrasing at the end sounds real close to what we read many times earlier, and I will become a God for them, and they will become a people for me. If we say we're under the authority of Yahweh and his Messiah, yet live contrary to his decrees, we misrepresent him to the nations. Yahweh hates that more than anything else. That's a hypocrite. Whether you'd be hot or cold, lukewarm gets spit out like poison. I'll use this thing. Now to the one I wanted. Thought it was earlier. Okay. 2nd Esdras, chapter 7, my favorite chapter. Now let me explain about those who followed the ways of Yahweh Most High, and what will happen when the time comes for them to leave their mortal bodies. While they lived on earth, through constant difficulty and danger, they served Yahweh Most High and carefully kept the law given by the lawgiver. This is what they will receive. They will rejoice when they see the great glory of Yahweh. He will receive them, and they will enter their rest in 7 stages of joy. The first joy is to have struggled hard and won the victory over the evil impulse which was formed in them, but which did not succeed in leading them from life into death. The second is to see the endless wandering of the souls of the wicked and the punishment that is waiting for them. The third is to know what a good report their Maker has given about them, that during their lifetime they kept the law that was entrusted to them. The fourth is to appreciate the rest that they are to enjoy in the places where they have been brought together, guarded by angels in complete silence, and with the glory that is waiting for them in the last day. The fifth is to rejoice that they have now escaped the corrupt world, and that they will receive the future life as their possession. They can see both the narrow, troubled world from which they have been freed, and the spacious world they will receive and enjoy forever. The sixth is to be shown how their faces will shine like the sun, and how they will be like the light of the stars that never die. The seventh joy, and best of all, is when they rush to meet God face to face, with perfect trust and happiness, without any fear or shame. They served him during their lifetime, and now they will receive from him their reward in glory. These rewards that I have been telling you about are those that have been prepared for the souls of the righteous. Read that at my funeral. Goodness gracious. All right, and then a few more from the prophets that I wanted to read before we close. But Yahweh will cry out from Zion, and from Jerusalem will give his voice. And the heavens and the earth will quake. But Yahweh will spare his people and will strengthen the sons of Israel. And you will know that I, Yahweh, your God, am the one dwelling in Zion, in my sacred mountain. And Jerusalem will be sacred, and foreigners will not pass through it any longer. And it will be in that day, the mountains will drip sweetness, and the hills will flow with milk, and all the channels of Judah will flow with waters. And running waters will come out from the house of Yahweh and will water the torrents of the reeds. Egypt will be for destruction, and Edom will be a plain of destruction for the injustices of the sons of Judah, because they poured out a righteous blood in their land. But Judah will be But Judah will be settled for eternity, and Jerusalem to generations of generations. And I will seek out their blood, and will surely not leave them unavenged, and Yahweh will dwell in Zion. Zechariah 8. And the word of Yahweh Almighty came, saying, This is what Yahweh Almighty says. I was jealous of Jerusalem and Zion with a great jealousy, and I have envied her with wrath. This is what Yahweh says. I will return upon Zion and dwell in the middle of Jerusalem. I was looking for something. I will return upon Zion. Catch the return there. And dwell in the middle of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem will be called the genuine city, and the mountain of Yahweh Almighty will be called a holy mountain. This is what Yahweh Almighty says. Male elders and female elders will sit in the wide streets of Jerusalem, each having his staff in his hand, having lived for many days. And the wide streets of the city will be full of young boys and young girls playing in its wide streets. This is what Yahweh Almighty says. Whether it seems impossible before the remnant of this people in those days, should it seem impossible even to me? Says Yahweh Almighty. This is what Yahweh Almighty says. Behold, I am saving my people from the land of the east and from the land of the west, and I will lead them and settle them in the middle of Jerusalem. And they will be to me a people, and I will be to them a God, in truth and in righteousness. This is what Yahweh Almighty says. Let your hands be strengthened, you who obeyed in these days these words from the mouth of the prophets, from the day that the house of Yahweh Almighty was established, and from the day in which the temple was built. From between the prophets to his kingdom coming. That's how long the words of Scripture matter. And then they only don't, quote, matter after, because he's right in front of us. So technically, they still technically matter. Yeah. Then I couldn't, had a lot of Old Testament in there. I wonder if it says the same thing in the New. Revelation 21. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared like a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the dwelling place or the dwelling of God is with humanity. He will take up residence with them, and they will be his people, and a God himself will be with them. That's just the prophets. That's the same thing. And he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death will not exist any longer. And mourning and or wailing or pain will not exist any longer. The former things have passed away. And the one seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new. And he said, Write, because these words are faithful and true. And Yahweh said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the one who is thirsty, I will give water from the spring of the water of life freely. The one who conquers will inherit these things, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowards and the unbelievers and the detestable persons and the murderers and the sexually immoral people and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their share is the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. To him a God, to me as a people. Same thing from the prophets over and over. Oh, we weren't even done. And one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues came and spoke with me, saying, Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me away in the Spirit to the great and lofty mountain and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Whoever said that the bride is the people can't read. That has the glory of God. Its radiance is like a precious stone, something like a jasper stone, shining like crystal. It has a great and high wall that has 12 gates, and the gates 12 angels, and the names written on the gates, which are of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. On the east, 3 gates. and on the north 3 gates, and on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And the wall of the city has 12 foundations, and on them are 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And the one who spoke with me was holding a golden measuring rod in order that he could measure the city and its gates and its wall. And the city is laid out as a square, and its length is the same as its width. And he measured the city with the measuring rod at 12,000 stadia. I think that's 1,500 miles, but. And he measured its wall, he measured its wall 144 cubits, according to human measure, which is the angels. Notice it made it clear that that's the same thing. And the material of its wall is jasper, and the city is pure gold, similar in appearance to pure glass. The foundations of the wall of the city are adorned with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth carnelian, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th I had to look up the pronunciation before I got here today. Chrysoprase. Praise. The 11th jacinth, the 12th amethyst. And the 12 gates are 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was from a single pearl, and the street of the city is pure gold, like transparent glass.
12 stones, the only 12
The
stones
same.
that are in isotropic, which means they're pure light. They change to all kinds of colors.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, because if it were diamond, it wouldn't do that. But diamond's usually seen by us as a precious stone.
I
But
should have put in pictures, now that I think about it, of what those look like, but
Only, it's the only 12.
and I'm pretty sure those are the same ones in the breastplate,
Yeah,
right?
that's
a
what
lot of them
tribes?
Some of them
are.
are.
Yes, some of them are. It also depends on, I guess, what manuscripts you use. They kind of change the stuff.
Also that,
sometimes.
yeah. No, that's the same color, it's just put this one.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be a change in the language from
Yeah.
back then to then. Yeah. So 144 cubits is 216 to 247 feet, depending on how you measure it.
That's fine.
It's probably the larger measurement, most likely.
So
Because
all of
usually
that to
traders
say,
try to
that's
minimize
that's the point. Like we were talking about earlier, we live in a world where we can see, while we might not have the perfect example here of what we can see, we can at least see the possibilities of what would be great. So hypothetically, you want to make a certain recipe that you've had before. It was great when you had it, you've got the recipe, you did it exactly the same, and for some reason it doesn't taste right. The Father's going to take all the things we knew as potential and give us a city with the perfect in every possible capability. Every aspect of that city, from the infrastructure to those in power, government, every bit of it will be exactly how we want. So, I wrote, but this picture or any we could even imagine can't come close to the true perfection of a house built by the master architect. Few reminders before I close. I like to end with these. Deuteronomy. And he afflicted thee and straitened thee with hunger, and he fed thee with manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might teach thee that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh shall man live. This one got cut off. It's fine. This is what the king of Israel says, and the one who rescues him, Yahweh Sabaoth, says, I am the first and I am the last. Except for me there is no God. Who is like me? Let him stand and call and announce and prepare for me from that time, or from the time since I made humanity for eternity, and let them announce to you the things that are coming before they come to pass. Do not hide yourselves or be misled. Did you not give ear from the beginning, and I have announced it to you? You are witnesses whether there is a God beside me. It got cut off at the end, but that's what he says. Whether there is a God other than me. So he told us the end from the beginning, just as he told the patriarchs of old. They believed him at his word, and so will I. Last one. And we read this one already today. Jeremiah 38. If these laws cease from before my face, declares Yahweh, then the race of Israel will cease to be a people before my face all the days. Thank you for joining us online. Shabbat Shalom. Was there any comments or anything? Was it Q?
Just